short person was there. Like in Jan's car.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. This is our closed session, 5 p.m. closed session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Garner.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pai.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. I don't see anybody in the audience, so I'm assuming we have no public comments.
That is correct.
All right. We will move to our city attorney announcing the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one closed session item on the agenda today. It is a public employee complaints pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.
Thank you very much. We will recess the closed session. Gerald, are you ready? All right. We're coming out of recess from closed session. We're going into presentations. We have a huge audience tonight. So I'll let you come on up and introduce yourself. Nobody in the audience, but there's lots of people watching on our live broadcast.
On
So,
Frontier Fiber.
yes. Press the button on there, it'll turn
Right,
red. There you go.
In my years on your side of the dais, I always assumed when the audience was light, everybody was happy. So looks like a very, very happy community. My name is Doug McAllister. I'm the Vice President for Frontier Communications. I focus on external affairs and internal response to issues. And I appreciate Mr. Mayor and the rest of you too allowing me to spend some time kind of in one sense reviewing what we've already done, but also kind of give you a feel for what's coming with Frontier side of things. And what I have here is a deck that is designed to be as short as possible. Like I said, my years on your side of the day is I was mayor of Murrieta, and I sat through thousands of these presentations, and not always was interested. And I'm trying to be interesting here, but I realize part of being interesting means I got to be short. So the idea behind the deck is to be as short as possible, and then allow time for questions, because I don't want to answer questions you're not asking. So if you don't mind, I'll just jump right into it, if you will. And I understand I hit this button here. There we go. Frontier Communications right now is involved in a massive fiber optic expansion nationwide. That includes California, of course. It's the biggest market there. And my role is to kind of drive that build, but to do it from the municipal side towards Frontier, not the other way around. It's a little odd that way. When they recruited me, I told them I wouldn't work for them. I had to work for you. And they took the gig anyway, so I'll go with that. But the idea here is they're building this fiber nationwide, and it is a game changer. I'm not going to read the slides, you can do that, but the whole idea behind what we're doing, by the time I'm done, I hope you understand the comprehensive nature of the technology that we're bringing your way. Frontier didn't say this, I did. It was part of when they recruited me about 2 years ago to come back and help them with this build. I told them literally, while they'd be paying me, I would be working for you. And that's because typically I haven't spent, like I said, so much time on your side. I understand when I get the call, Mr. Mayor, city's stupid, they don't know what they're talking about, they're not being fair, yada, yada, yada. I would hang up and I would call my city manager and say, okay, well, our code was, what's the rest of the story? Funny thing, so many times that rest of the story was extremely illuminating, 99% of the time. And so I've learned that many times it's because folks tend to blame government for things that government didn't do. It's incumbent upon me as representative trying to accomplish something is that I assume that what I'm hearing from my clients is not true, and I come and get the rest of the story, either from you or from your city manager. And so the idea here is that's part of what Frontier agreed to when they brought me on, which was, I was shocked they would agree to that. And so this quote is me. If we're going to do something bigger than we've ever done, then we had better do business better than we've ever done. So part of my reason for being here, in fact, in my view, the biggest reason I'm here is introduce myself to you so that you have my number. Your city manager has my cell number. Please do not put that on the website. That's just for you, and so that if anything, one of the things I hated, almost one of the things, I love being in office, but just walking into church of all places, or a grocery store, or an event, or anything, and getting lambasted by a constituent, and I'm having to say, I don't know what you're talking about. But I'll try to find out. And then I got more frustrated when I couldn't find anybody to ask those things. I don't want you to be in those situations, so that if you're walking to church, you're walking to a store or someplace, and somebody asks you a question about Frontier, you have me as a resource. I'm the senior executive representative of Frontier to all of you. And I'm that way all over California. A lot of the, probably most electeds in California and city managers and county CEOs have me on speed dial. And the purpose for that is so that if there's an issue or a question, don't even take the second breath. Call me, text me, email me. That's part of us doing business better than we've ever done before. The process we're here, we've gone through much of this. Your city has been absolutely awesome working with my team as far as getting started, the permits and the construction, getting that moving forward. I am more concerned about the construction period, before, during, and after. I get the best intel from you about what's really going on. So I call it my boots on the ground intel. And so I tend to find out about things happening, for good or ill, all over California. I find out from folks just like you before the company tells me. In fact, the company does not like to tell me, because my job there is therefore to fix it. And so that's where I get most of my info is from you folks. And so if something comes up, like I said, not in the second breath, contact me. But the cleaning up after the job, if there's a pause like we have right now, that's why you see coils in the air. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when there's a pause, when there's something that doesn't look quite right, or it could be something as simple as we're in the middle of doing an install and somebody walks out and the folks out of their house, and why is that person in my front yard? Might be in the right of way, but they think it's their front yard. They have a question. They don't feel like they were notified, even if we did. And I just need to know about that. They get a hold of you and complain. You don't work for Frontier, I do. It's not your job to fix it, it's mine. And so that's why you let me know, and I'll have somebody out there to talk to them, explain what's going on. That's all during the construction period. But what I'm trying to convey to you here is while all of this is going on, you have me as a resource. So please use it. I'll go through a couple of these. What fiber is, our whole focus here is fiber optic cabling from the wire center, I'll show you a picture of that, all the way to the side of the house. This is not one of those come-ons where it's fiber part of the way, and then most of the way after that it's copper. Copper, the reason we're upgrading our copper facilities is because when copper gets wet, it quits working. When it's not as reliable. Fiber, you can't get the speeds, you can't get the capacities on copper as well. The fiber is very, very resilient and reliable, and it's a very, very strong connection. I read a study, I don't know, some time ago, that said the average house has 22 devices in their home. I didn't believe it. And so I went home, and it's me, my wife, and my cat. And the three of us have 13 devices at our house. And I'm on 500 over 500. You can get up to 5 gigs, so we'll talk about that here in a minute. But it's up and down speeds of 500, and we never buffer. And it's not like DSL, where the more people get on to watch Super Bowl, the slower everything goes at that point. This is no choke points. It is literally a game changer when it comes to your capacity for internet speeds and access. The next thing here is up to 5 gigs of speed. I don't know what you do with 5 gigs. I'm not a gamer, so I don't need that. Like I said, 500 over 500, a half a gig is fine for me. But you can get up to 5 gigs of speed, and which is kind of a game changer. Brief story. When I first got elected, Verizon came to me and said they wanted Murrieta to be the first city in the nation, this back 2004, the first city in the nation to have this new thing called Fios. I don't know if you remember that or not, but Fios was the rage, and it was 50 megs. It was super fast. And I had been trying to develop a wireless mesh for the city. It was just too costly. And so all I heard from Verizon was blah, 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 free. And so I said, yes, let's do it all at once. Go for it. Let's make it happen. And it was ugly. It was construction all over the city. But once we got done, that adding the broadband backbone at that point helped us go from a bedroom community to a biotech community. And so it was a very, very good addition to our economic development efforts. This is 5 gigs. I was told then that DSL was the size of it could be illustrated the size of a garden hose, where the 50 megs would be in comparison the size of a 10-foot culvert. I have no idea how big the culvert is for 5 gigs. All I know is it's a lot of capacity, and that is what drives this and what makes the huge difference. The rest of this, you guys will have this. You can read the slide at your leisure. I've already covered that, so we're going to move on. This is kind of an illustration of what I mean when we go from the office to the side of the house. You have the wire center there on the left, and then it goes to the hubs outside the communities, and then from there it goes to these terminals that are right in front of the houses, and there they stop. When a resident then decides they want our services, they order it, we come back and at no charge to them, then we do a drop from that terminal in fiber again to the side of the house. And that's what allows us to have the capacities and the speeds that we're able to get. We do try to notify folks. I am one of those people that when I get home, I go through the garage. Just drive right through. I don't go to the front door. And so I don't know what's there, and I go to the front door for 2 reasons at home. And one is to harvest my door hangers. Don't even look at them, especially this time of year with everything going on. I just throw them in the trash. And then the other is Amazon, of course. You have to go to the front door for that. But the idea here is that we always try to put out the door hangers, we put out the letters, we put out the signs to let people know we're coming. However, if they're like me, they don't see any of that. They don't see the door hangers. And so in my view, in our view, is that when somebody walks out their front door and who is this, and they don't know we're coming, even though we try to notify them, in our view, they are in fact basically not notified. And that's when I would send somebody out to explain what's going on there. Here's the map here. I got to pull my notes after that because I can't read it from here. What we've done so far is we've engineered about 11,000 addresses here in your city. The red area is what we believe, I think is accurate, is your city limits. Orange lines are where we are already done. We've completed the jobs and everything else there, open for sale for residents. And then the blue lines there are pending completion or recently completed. What that means is that, and that's, I need to ask my team to not add blue lines like that, because basically they're done. They're just called pending complete because on the Frontier side, they still go through the accounting of it. But my guess is that those blue lines there are also ready and open for sale. We've completed 8,000 of those addresses since 2022. And then we have about 2.8 thousand remaining locations that are planned to be done. And in 2024, we're looking to do another 1.2 thousand homes in this region, and then 1.6 we're looking probably in 2025 to finish those up as well. This year, 85% of what we're doing here is either going to be aerial, overlashing on existing copper, or it's going to be an existing conduit. So there's very little digging going on, which makes everything easier, especially when you're talking about tearing up streets and sidewalks and things. Any questions so far on that? Okay, we'll get back to that if you need to.
I think we'll have some questions, but just go ahead and finish.
Sure. This slide, I believe, is still accurate. And I don't want to leave it up there very long because I don't want this to be a commercial. But I only bring this up to show the affordability side of this thing. My 500 over 500, they're advertising $44.99 as the price, but there's always deals. I'm getting that for $40 a month. The $155 for your 5 gigs. What we have done is we have divorced ourselves from content, meaning we don't sell our services to include a package deal with 6,000 channels, of which you'll probably watch 6. We don't do that at this point. What we are now doing, and what we do for this is why we keep the prices so low, is that we're providing a pipeline, period. You stream what you want on that pipeline, and you make that choice and such. And it's the phone, your phone is over that pipeline, your internet, your gaming, you name it, is over all of that. If you work from home, it's a wonderful pipeline to have because your Zooms and your Teams meetings are without glitches. It's like watching TV. It's very, very smooth. Before I had this, I had another I almost said it. I haven't had another service, and I was spending over $200 a month. And I'm under $100 a month now with this. It's just very, very affordable. There was a program, I believe it's gone now, at least temporarily, the Affordable Connectivity Act, that we worked with the federal government on, so that there were folks that were, this was still too arduous for them to meet income-wise, they were able to get the discounts, sometimes all the way up to free. That has been ended, and Frontier has an in place program until the legislation comes through for the new, whatever they're going to call it, program, help folks with that. And so that is coming, and so we can hopefully help folks that maybe have income issues where even the $45 is too much, then we can maybe help them with that as well. Okay, I talked real fast and I said a lot, so now it's time for questions.
I appreciate it. We still have 15 minutes, so you got plenty of time for questions. I'll start with Mr. Gardner and then go Mr. Betts, and I'll come back over this side.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming. I have watched as you put this in throughout the city. And like you, I was with another provider, and I had the 1 gigabyte.
Okay.
And it's exactly as you described. Mm-hmm. The thing that I appreciate both from you and your competitor, because we are one of the only cities that is going to have dual fiber providers.
Right.
In our city, is that being an underserved and disadvantaged community, to be the first in the valley to have Silicon Valley quality internet is going to do so much for our community. So I just wanted to thank you for that, because I see our kids who get a laptop from the school district, and they're sitting in the McDonald's parking lot because they can't afford internet at home. Now we have affordable, like I said, Silicon Valley internet, and from 2 providers, which is fantastic, because you guys are going to go back. So your competitor goes to $49.99. You're going to go, oh, I'm going to go $39.99, and then we're going to have a nice little race down to the bottom where we're all going to have really cheap, really fast, really good internet. So I wanted to thank you for that. I still, there's still spots, like you said, you're still finishing things up out there, and it may be a while, but nonetheless, I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing this to our city, to make our city a much bigger destination. After COVID, I see at least 4 or 5 couples in my neighborhood that have moved in that work in San Francisco, but they work remotely here because they sought out communities that have high quality internet, and we're one of those. So I just wanted to give you the kudos for that. Thanks.
An anecdote that would kind of goes along with what you're saying, sir, was we built out the city of Bishop. I was just there a couple days ago. We built them out, and we discovered, and the city discovered this, because Myriad experienced the same thing when we did this 15 years ago for 5 meg. We discovered that there were folks moving from Silicon Valley to Bishop, and moving out of their $1 million apartment to a mansion that a fraction of the cost in Bishop. Now they have 5 gigs at home and they can work remotely. We found that to be a huge benefit economically. I was kind of the economic development guy on the council, and was very focused on providing a very rich soil from which we could grow business. And literally we went from bedroom to biotech, largely because we added state-of-the-art fiber at that point. So to that point, you're exactly right, and I'm really hoping to see you guys experience the same kind of growth.
Mr. Betts.
Thanks. Hi. Welcome to the podium instead of the side of the dais, eh?
It's different on this side.
Yeah. So on Facebook, you'll see people commenting. So how is Frontier? Should I get them? And my answer is always they've been great. Your customer service. I think I've had 5 or 6 years with the fiber optic. It was installed in my subdivision, and it's been great service. The customer service is perfect when I call. If it went out once, I think it was because I didn't pay the bill.
Oh, well.
And I called, and they said, you're back on. So and I'm very happy with the service. I had some concerns around the neighborhood regarding the impacts, and you had mentioned the coils, and we can get to that one, but you're talking about having to run aerial. And as I understand it, if the electric and the phone lines, they have priority on the poles, if they aren't high enough, then you've got to do something else. You only got so much space in that pole. Somebody has run cable that you could just about reach up and grab it.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if it was you or probably the other guys, went in and next to an existing pole, put in another pole. Doesn't go all the way up. So now we got 2 poles. And in this world, people with a view generally thinking, I'd like to have less poles,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
more.
right.
But you go around the city and see a dozen instances where a second pole has been installed. And then we've got loops that are hanging all over these poles. And somebody says, well, that's temporary. And I was in business with my dad for too many years. And if I said, I'll get back to you, and he'd say, when? I'd say this afternoon. He said, I'm looking at that clock. I don't see this afternoon anywhere on that clock. So I would just like to know, what's the definition of temporary? A year, 2 years, 3 months, 1 month? It's already been several months.
Right.
And I was thinking that all those loops were the other guys, but then I stopped and saw a Frontier truck.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, whose loop is that? And they said, that's ours.
Yeah.
So how long are the loops going to stay?
Yeah, let me answer the first question first. And this is what I'm talking about with boots on the ground intel that I don't get from my folks sometimes, and that is those extra poles and the line's too low. We are the phone company, and so we are joint owners of these poles, which means we have priority to be on the poles.
Okay.
And so, but there's requirements, and your team can tell what they are. I don't have a clue. I just know they have to be certain height minimums. And if we're not installing those correctly, I need to know that. So we get that fixed yesterday. And the second pole thing I'm gonna check into. I haven't heard of that one before and find
Okay.
out what that's about. I don't know if that's us or not, but I'll find out one way or the other. With regard to the loops, that one, once again, I found out about this from your team before the company. The contractors, for whatever reason, decided not to tell me. I can guess why, because I know what I would do. And the reality of this is that when it comes to the company, as far as a solid line report, to me, it's one thing. I'm a VP, because that's normal. But when it comes to a dotted line report, it's virtually everyone. And so when I find out about something, things have to happen, or else people lose their jobs. I expect a very high response rate. So I have an internal response team that when I find out about these things, I will hand it to that team.
So how
and they'll
long
go
are the
through
loops
that.
going to stay there?
Well,
He always
that's what-
gets mad at me when I interrupt answers.
Well,
but-
that's where I'm getting to. That's part of what I'm going to do at this point is the loops should have already been taken care of. I just found out about that. And so we're in the process now of getting those loops taken care of. They're there because we're coming back to finish. That's why I pulled this map up again, because we have things to do in 2024 and then 2025, but they should not have been left up this long. Initially, when they were put up, we were coming right back within a week or two.
Okay, so the next thing on the loops is, I don't know how you are, but I got a grandson, and if I ask him to roll up the hose, the garden hose, and it's a big frayed mess all over the place, I make him do it again. I at least want it to be neat, not just, and I don't know if you've taken a drive through the town.
I've seen pictures.
But you've got, it's probably from me,
Okay.
you got work that is like, somebody's not taking any pride in their work. And I don't know if it's you or the other guys. I just know that one, I got loops I don't want to see, and two, I
I'm
think
guessing
somebody.
it's us.
So next thing is, are you guys, and I'm almost done, are you getting federal money or
No.
state money? So this is all private, so you don't have to do prevailing wage
No.
or union labor? Okay.
No.
That might explain why we're not getting good work done. In some instances. Now, you said are you going to put in boxes in
way-
yards?
No, not in the yards. Let me go back to that picture. That second number, the picture number 2 is a hub. It's about so big.
Above ground?
It's above ground. That's outside the neighborhoods. The idea here is that it should never be in somebody's view. It should be outside the neighborhood before you get into where the residences are.
Okay, so it's not going to be another, because these guys went, you got, somebody says my whole yard's being taken up by these
Yeah.
utility boxes.
These, number 3 there that's the terminal. It's flush mounted. It's either, if it's in the ground, it's flush mounted into the ground, at the sidewalk or whatever.
Has it got one
If
of the
it's
regular utility boxes?
Yeah,
You
it's
flip it
about-
open and reach in?
About so big, it's called a handhole.
Okay.
And then, or if it's on an existing aerial, then it's mounted up to on the pole and such, but it's not going to be a box in somebody's front yard.
Yeah, my concern is we have, 10 more utility companies coming behind you
Mm-hmm.
that are all going to want to tear up the street, put in their equipment, and
I can't speak for them. I can speak for Frontier, and tearing up the street is not an option.
okay.
We're responsible for mitigating within our scope of impact. By law, we have to do that. And so that's part of the process. And so a lot of the 2025 build will involve digging, and that's where I'll be working very closely with your staff to make sure my team performs and behaves.
Okay, and you know who UtiliQuest is, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones that go through and are you going to go do utility marking on the street? Mm-hmm. Are they going to use paint that can't be removed? I mean, these guys are out there,
Yeah.
HP is out there pressure washing, trying to get rid of, and they're wearing out the street, and then people are finding markings all over their driveways.
Driveways and sidewalks.
And who's telling UtiliQuest to go use permanent paint?
We're not. We're asking for
So
chalk-based.
can you control that?
We try to, but they do what they want. And so
Well, that comes back on you, though.
yeah, I know. And we're the ones who have to go out and clean it up and things like that. And so you won't see a lot of that during this rush of this bill because most of it's aerial or existing conduit. And so there won't be any need for locating utilities.
Okay.
But going forward, I have had issues statewide with that. And I need to hear about that because before it sits there for 6 months. I need to, it's supposed to be 3 days. And then it gets cleaned up and we move on.
Mr. Betts, I'm going to give
So
you
I'm
2 more
done.
minutes because I got 2 more
I'm
council
done.
members.
Maybe I can get your number and.
Perfect.
You'd be
You have
willing
my
to take
number?
my call. I get these residents calling.
Make sure they all have my number. That's what
Every
it's
one of
for.
these things is from a resident complaining to me.
I
and
hear
I'm
you.
responding to it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
No
And
problem.
thank you.
Sure.
And everything Gary said.
Mayor Pro
by the way.
Tem? And
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Nunez.
I just want to say thank you. I can't wait to see, to talk to the kids at the school and let them know that, we have an opportunity for them. We're trying to, build a divide, the digital divide, and
really
hopefully we
cool.
can provide services that, no other city can. One thing I do want to, hopefully that, first and foremost, welcome to the city.
Thank you.
As you may know, I don't know if you live locally, but we're working to revitalize our downtown with,
Yes.
new businesses, small mom and pops, murals, nightlife and whatnot. So one thing I want to see, I hope we can work with your staff to see what we can do with the building that you guys currently have, maybe incorporating murals, or just working with us to see what we can do to revitalize that building.
Yeah, I'll check in. That
problem.
Real estate is in charge of all that, and I every time I'm coming to one of these, my next call typically is to real estate because our buildings typically, because part of the nature is they have to be designed with no windows and they don't tend to be
Yeah.
all that good looking. It's a homeland security issues we have to and everything else, but they can at least pull the weeds,
Yeah.
and so for revitalizing that. The other thing too, which brings up a point you may not have been referencing, but I do want to make is that what I'm talking about here is what we call FTTH, fiber to the home. However, trust me, I know how this works. Businesses talk to you. And if a business is having trouble getting through, it's a whole separate build. But if a business is they want our services, they want 5, 10 gigs, they want whatever they want, but they can't seem to get through to customer service, then without the second breath, call me. And I'll fix that and make sure we'll connect that business with the right person and they can avoid the phone call waits at that point.
Correct.
Very focused on that's economic development, so I'm very focused on helping you with that.
I look forward to work with you guys. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And final thoughts, thank you so much for taking the time to come up here. I think this is really important for our community, not to hear just the options, but hear that we have a partner.
Yes.
I have the same concerns that's been up here. We have views, and aesthetically, we want to see our community look nice. We worked very closely with utilities before on burying utilities and trying to get them out of the views, but there's obviously some places you just can't do that. We just want you to be a good partner, and if you do end up driving around the city, you will see that some of the areas are a little blighted because of the new infrastructure that's going in, and I have all confidence that you're going to make it better. So we'll continue to work with our staff, and we'll go from there. Mr. Lucchino?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to give Doug some kudos, they installed in 29 Palms, and we had an issue, Doug will recall, that some of their crews didn't finish the street, and we had an event that day. I called Doug that morning, I think it was, and that day he had the folks out there to fix the issue. So
Very nice.
I've had opportunity to work with him, and he has delivered.
And I only aged 10 years that day. It's no big deal.
It happens.
But two, if you have specific sites, you can, Frank, if you can have your team email them to me, so I can get my folks looking at those, for sure, those specific sites. But I also want to, there was a call on Monday with a contractor about this very thing with the loops, about why the heck are they still there? And so I'm waiting to hear back the answer to that, but I do want to get started on that now. So anything specific, let me know. In the meantime, I'll let you get on with your meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sure. All right, we have 2 minutes before the next meeting. We'll take a short recess.
That's something you can fake it until you make it.
No, you always are, I've never seen you not be happy.
I'm fit as a fiddle and happy as a lark.
Oh, they did their presentation. I think they're self-door. Spectrum's still, we're not, you know, so they have access, so the school goes through a different program. Yeah, and I think they come out to contract with so yeah, they have access to it, so. I don't remember. But they'll have the access. But he came to the church to pitch us a lot. Okay, don't scream at me yet. So you find out? Yes. All right. Okay. You got a direct. So you can scream at me directly.
No, but I gotta answer you.
Yeah, I understand. But no, I remember, yeah.
All right, if I get the city council back to the dais.
Fit as and happy as a lark.
There you go.
Now, we've had before, but your name is not coming to my head. That's right, I'm Tom Moen. Tom Moen, yeah.
I think I lost a council member. Thank you, sir.
This is Tom Moen. Okay. Oh. In about 1 minute.
Has anyone seen a lost council member?
Yes.
All right, we'll get started in just a minute. We're tracking down one of the council members.
Right. That's right. And how are they inspected by the health department? Okay. Good. Whereas the local restaurants, you have to get trials around time, a time or two. That's right.
All right, we found the lost council member, so we're going to get started.
Gotta go.
We're going to call to order the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. This is not 5:30. This is 6 p.m. regular session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts,
Present?
Councilmember Gardner,
Present.
Councilmember Nunez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pai,
Present.
Mayor Mattis.
Present. I'm going to invite up Pastor Jerry Johnson, who's going to give our invocation, but I'm going to join you down there. I'm also going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Jan Pai to join me down there for some special words.
God bless you.
I'm going to take you to the other side.
Oh,
I'm going to take you over here.
okay.
You're not in trouble yet.
This is a special area here.
I got security over here.
You do.
Fire department, chief of police.
Please remember me.
Pastor Jerry Johnson, he represents Lily of the Valley Church here in Desert Hot Springs. How long have you been in Desert Hot Springs?
6 years.
6 years now. But their church has been in organization for 65 years. And they are celebrating. I got to tell a funny, quick story, but I had been asked to speak at this event, and somehow I got it on February 17th instead of March 17th. And on February 17th, my son had a little bit of an emergency, so I go down to take care of my grandkids, and all of a sudden I realize on my calendar I'm supposed to be at an event at 3 o'clock, and it's like noon. And I'm panicking because I'm supposed to be at this event that I was invited to, and so I call Mayor Pro Tem John Pine, and she's like, yeah, I'll do it. So we're all set, ready to go. I'm texting the pastor, and he's like, it's March 17th. Our calendars are always full. I apologize. I will be there on March 17th. I'll bring Miss Pye with me if she wants to come. We'll both be there.
All right.
But
All of you.
all
of you.
I wanted to say thank you. We're going to have a proclamation at your event and really recognize your event and what you've given back to the Coachella Valley, let alone our city. And thank you for always being a good friend and a good partner to us here in Desert Hot Springs. But we wanted to recognize you. There's only a few people in the audience, but there's a lot of people that watch on TV, and we want to make sure that you're recognized for your 65 years of service. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that.
And
Thank you so much.
we're going to have Pastor Johnson give a invocation, and then after the invocation, I'm going to have Ms. Pye lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to go back around this way because I think the cameras are going to want us that way. And then I also have one more special thing I'd like to announce.
I promise I'll get it done in 3 minutes this time.
You're not out of time this time.
Almighty and triune God, we give you thanks and praise for all of your mighty works. You are loving and good and gracious. Thank you for creating us and sustaining us day by day. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for our city. Thank you for our elected officials, the businessmen, the churches, the first responders, the families, and the individuals that make our city the great place that it is. I pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on the items before them. May every decision be righteous in your sight, for your benefit and for your glory. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
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 I'm doing the pledge. Would everyone stand with enthusiasm? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Johnson, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Ms. Pye, I'd like you to join me up here.
All right.
One more time, when and where?
March 17th, 3:30 p.m. at the church you were born at.
So I'm going to have a picture put up here on the screen, and I got to get some notes real quick. Whenever a council member is recognized for a lot of things, we usually give them kudos during our own comments, but I really wanted to do this at the beginning of the meeting because I wanted to bring awareness to what took place today. I think this is a very special event. So earlier today, I was able to drive down to Riverside, and the county of Riverside has the supervisors districts, and we're in District 4, and they have a supervisors meeting. It's similar to a city council meeting. There's 5 supervisors that represent Riverside County, and today they were going to each pick a person in their district that represents and was going to be recognized for International Women's Day and Women's History Month. And so each district was able to nominate, they took multiple nominations, and then each district supervisor was able to pick a person. Well, this year's nominee and winner, picked by V. Manuel Perez, our county supervisor for the 4th District, is no other than our Mayor Pro Tem Jan Pai. This is a true honor to be in the same room with her while she accepted this. She's been a great mentor to me over the time, and she's been, I believe, appointed to our city council and elected 3 different times. Elected 3 different times and appointed 3 different times, which is a big feat in itself. When you're appointed to a city council once, it's a great honor, because you're sitting in a seat that other council members chose to put you in, and you weren't just elected by the people, but you were trusted to finish a seat of someone that did not finish their term. It happened 3 times with you. That's a true honor, to be on a council that you've been on, that you've done that for. But not only does Jan do for our city, and I can probably list this many committees that she's been involved in our community, let alone nonprofits and all the things she's done for Desert Hot Springs. She also sits on the RAP board, which is a regional access project here in the Coachella Valley that gives out hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations over time that she's been sitting there and giving them to nonprofit organizations that make a difference in our community in the Coachella Valley. And in 2004, she was elected to the Palm Springs, you were appointed to the Palm Springs Cemetery District?
By the counselor.
By the supervisor. And she's been with the cemetery district since 2004, and you've been chair since 2006? 16. And so she's been the chair, 2014 you were appointed, in 2016 you became chair, and she's been chair ever since the Palm Springs Cemetery District. So not only is she giving back to the community, but she's giving back, and I just wanted to say those kudos to her and thank you for everything you've done for our community, and it was a true honor to be there and see you accept that award today. If you wanted to say anything about it.
I'm not going to cry today. But one of the things that I do is whenever somebody on staff gets a promotion that I know about, can you help me?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Let's go. I'm done.
All right, we're going to go to the city attorney's report on closed session. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no reportable action.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to the approval of the agenda. We're going to approve, we can approve unless someone needs to remove anything, the full consent calendar. Is there anybody that wants to remove anything from the consent calendar? Before we, it sounds like we're not going to have anything removed from the consent calendar. Before we do that, is there anyone that would like to speak on the items on the consent calendar? We have 3 items. See nobody coming forth. We'll close public comments. I'll
Move
accept the
adoption
motion.
of the agenda and the consent calendar.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, with the caveat that any no votes or yes votes would be the same on the consent as they are with the
Understood.
approval.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll second.
And there's a move.
I'll second.
Can you move on the screen? Second it. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move to public comments. At this time, pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council not listed on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the City Council shall not take action on or discuss matters raised during public comment portion of the agenda that are not listed on the agenda. All comments should be directed to the City Council and shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during public comments. First public speaker I have, and if you're in the room and you'd like to public speak, there is blue cards back there. Please see our city clerk. Our first public speaker is Lacey Williams. Welcome. There's a button on that right there. Once you press it, it'll turn red. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and thanks to the council. My name is Lacey Williams, and I am a teaching artist and co-founder of Healing Rhythms, which is a nonprofit here based in Desert Hot Springs. This is the first council meeting I've been able to come to since we had our event in December, but we did have Desert Hot Springs' first annual Kwanzaa event, and it was at the Senior Center. Community activist Frank Elmore was our Kwanzaa King, and it was really great. We had support from the California Arts Council with a community impact grant. So we had local businesses support our event. We had sponsorships. We were able to really touch the whole lifespan with special events for the seniors. We also did a library event, and we were so grateful for the library allowing us to do our story time there. We had donations from Crumble Cookie, Brands Overstock, Smart and Final, Grocery Outlet, and it really helped to bring the community together. So as the demographics change in Desert Hot Springs, it's really important to have inclusive cultural events that encompass art, that encompass social, play, leisure. I've been working for and with the state of California for the last 16 years. I'm a certified therapeutic rec specialist. So I work with inclusion. Being able to host events for people with all abilities is extremely important for our community. So we would really like the support of the city and the council as we create more opportunities for events in our city, and also just to introduce you to some of the things that we do. So other than the story times and the cultural events, we also have a contract with California Arts Council for Arts and Corrections. So we go inside 2 Imperial County prisons to run and facilitate rehabilitative groups. Now, to build the bridge between the people in prison and the people outside of the prison that we don't want to go into the prison, our youth, is really important for us to have these types of events for positivity and to also, show young people that we're here, we care for them, and we want them to be successful. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you for everything you're doing. That's wonderful. Our next speaker is going to be Rudy Morales.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Rudy Morales, and I'm with Imaging Marketing Group. I'm also with California Care Force. As you may know, California Care Force, we do an annual clinic here in Indio, California, sponsored by Golden Voice. And I'd like to invite the City Council and the Mayor, would you please come out to our event, March 8th to the 10th. Come out and see what we do. Every year, we provide free medical services to the Coachella Valley. Last year, we had about 300 people from Desert Hot Springs who came out and got free services. We have medical, dental, and vision care. Everything's free. These glasses here are free. They'll cost about $200 if you see a doctor, but they're free. We have dental, we have x-rays, cleaning, filling, extractions. And the medical, we do general exams, blood pressure, other services. In the vision, we do vision exams. We do health checks and prescriptions. So if you have prescriptions for your glasses, you come and see us, you get everything free. And normally we have about 3,000 people over the weekend across the Coachella Valley. We've been doing this for 12 years. And this, I want to come out and invite the city council, the staff to come out and see what we do. If you ever see the movie MASH, back in the days, we are tonight, all the semis came in from Sacramento, where we'll be at the Polo Grounds tonight, setting up the event. And it's an empty event. Imagine an empty tent. And within 8 hours, we have triage, medical chairs, vision chairs. It is so beautiful out there. I'd like to invite each one of you to come out here and see what we do. And maybe we can work for next year's event, invite the entire city to come out. But it's a wonderful event, and it's kind of sad that Sunline cannot bring residents from DHS to our event. And that's one thing I like to focus here for next year, somehow, some way to get Sunline Transit to transport residents from DHS to the event. The east end of the valley, they get from Mecca, Thurman, Coachella bus services to the event, one night DHS. So I don't know who to speak to on behalf of your 5 members, but we need your help to make sure the residents of Desert Hot Springs gets the services for free. Do you have any questions, anyone?
We can't have it back and forth because it's during public comments, but I'm sure the staff has your information, and Mr. Betts represents us on Sunline, so we'll get back with you for sure. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, can we just get the dates repeated?
If you could repeat the dates, that'd be great.
I'll leave a poster for you guys here if you want to. It's March 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Awesome.
And the lines begins at 5 o'clock in the morning, believe it or not. We have 1,000 people probably per day waiting in line to get free services.
Thank you, Rudy. We'll get it up on our social media too.
Thank
for
you.
Tom Moen?
Tom Moen, 45-year resident, Desert Hot Springs. I'll be 65 in June, so I'm not moving as fast as I used to move. One thing that I would like to touch base on is we've mentioned before that Desert Hot Springs is in need of jobs. And I did some looking. Currently, Desert Hot Springs is 7.5% unemployed. That's too high. About 4% is considered full employment. So I think we need jobs right here in town. And we need to learn how to make money here in Desert Hot Springs. 17% of Desert Hot Springs residents are property owners. The rest are not. And I think owning property is the American dream. And I've not only purchased a house, but it's all paid for by some good hard work and having a good wife that was a good helpmeet for me. And 12% of the people working in Desert Hot Springs are self-employed. 70% of the people working in Desert Hot Springs work for private industry. 10% work for nonprofit organizations, and 10% work for government and 7% work for nonprofits. That's a real diverse community, but the number one people who employ folks and put them to work are our private companies. And we need to do more to promote private employers coming into business in Desert Hot Springs. I work for a company that has employed a lot of people who no one else wants to hire because they've been in jail. And I had lunch today with a gentleman who's worried about getting a job. And he's been on parole for 2 weeks, living right here in Desert Hot Springs. His family's from here, and he's been away for 10 years. Well, you know, he found out he had to have permission from his parole officer just to attend church. So hopefully I've opened up a door for him. In just the last seconds here, I want to mention, and I don't know if this is discussed on any agenda item, but that's the vending trucks in Desert Hot Springs. They have an unfair advantage. They're not paying for overhead and building and things like that. Anyway, my time's up.
Thank you, Tom.
So we'll talk more later.
I have the last blue card here, Scott Dale. Anyone who would like to speak in public comments, please fill out a blue card or talk to the city clerk. This is the last call.
Hello. First, I'd like to thank my other two guests that spoke earlier. I'm Scott Dale, here as of 10 days ago. I'd like to say I was heading up to the Springs to relax after a very important job I worked in Orange County, and steering wheel went to the right, went through the homes, found a for rent sign, contacted Andy Dean, who was brilliant, got me into a place. So I'm glad to say that I'm now a resident of DHS. 40 years of production in Orange County. Back to '84, I got hired at Disney, worked there for 21 years. Left in 2005 and started freelancing all over the industry. I'm a production electrician. Lighting is my specialty. In the 10 days that I've been here, I've noticed a lot of effort from the city. In fact, the other morning, driving right out of my driveway, I looked down and I see 6 squad cars at a house. And I saw a bust going on, so I wanted to commend the efforts of the community for cleaning up. I know it's a nonstop challenge for the group here. There's so many ideas I would like to bring to the city council. Tonight is just to say hi and introduce myself. And with the police department and the fire department, I'm a first trained responder. I've been that way for about 15 years. So I take everything very seriously. And I'm just very glad to be here, and I see so much potential for the city. And one thing I would like to say is possibly with the homeless. Just because I got here and I don't know your protocol and how you're working with it and addressing the issue. Something simple, my associate, we can print out shirts and maybe just start with a Desert Angels. Getting the homeless involved might help the community. And we'll do like a cleanup day. We could pick out a Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever works within the city plan. I really don't know, I'm just getting here. But that is a simple idea. I've seen plenty of homeless people, and right across the street, there's a big pile of stuff, table, chairs, beds. I notice throughout the city that does happen often, you know, but I would like to make an effort to help this group any way I can in marketing and promoting this wonderful city. I mean, it's just, to me, it's fun and exciting. And, you know, after COVID, getting a divorce and winding up out here, I just feel very blessed. And I thank you all for doing what you do, and I look forward to the future. And thank you.
Welcome. I have no other blue cards in front of me for public speaking on non-agendized items. Would anybody else like to say anything? All right, with that, we're going to close the public comments, and we're going to move to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just a couple updates. The animal hospital should be coming to the council soon. You know, staff will be having a recommendation very shortly. So we've been working on that to, you know, address the need of the direction of the council. ICSC, International Shopping Center Convention, is coming up soon. Staff is going to be working on trying to set up meetings. I know the direction of the council is to from economic development and creating jobs. So that is something staff is going to be working towards. I'd like to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Pai on her award today. It was very nice to be there and to support you, and you're a good person, and that definitely was shine today. So then finally, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Wilms for other staff updates.
Thank you, Frank. Only one tonight. I'm going to ask Jeffrey Buckheim, our Administrative Services Director, to provide some financial highlights.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Our financial highlights through the end of February 2024 for fiscal year 23-24. Our revenues are at over $15.7 million, which is 48% of the adopted budget. Last year at this time, the revenues were at $15.4 million, which was 46% of that year's budget. 2 years ago, our revenues were at $17.4 million, which was 55% of that year's budget. That year includes the $1.7 million transfer from ARPA funds for the dispatch center. As for expenditures, this year we are at over $22.2 million, which is at 68% of the adopted budget. Last year at this time we were at $19.5 million, which was at 55% of the budget. And 2 years ago we were at $16.7 million, which is at 51% of the budget.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And then I'll leave you with just another update. At the next council meeting, we will be bringing the contract to award the construction of the new fire station. So we're really excited to bring that forward at the next council meeting. That'll be March 19th. And that concludes our updates.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to mayor and council member comments. I'm going to start with Mr. Nunez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have actually nothing. I just have a proposal later on for the street memorial policy that I want to bring up, so I'll do that toward the end. Thank you, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Moen, someone you may want to talk to about jobs is Walker Beverly. He's a member of our community, and he is helping people who have been in prison to rehabilitate themselves. You may also want to speak with Lacey Williams. And you also may want to speak with Sushi Brantman, Dancing Through Prison Walls. And she also is funded by California Arts Council. Welcome to the new member, and you probably want to talk to me. You probably also want to talk to Councilmember Betts, and we'll get you started. There are things that are happening now, and that'll get you started. Lacey Williams, I was not able to come to your events, but I did give you places where you could go. And the Senior Center was very excited about you coming, and so they would want you to come again. The Senior Center is having a Borrego DAP health presentation, and it's at the end of the month. It's on March 26th, and the presentation is from 10:30 to 11:30. And so you can find out what DAP is. DAP took over Borrego, and you'll find out what DAP is going to do for us. Also, I spent on the 24th my last events for Black History Month, and on the 24th, I attended the parade, Black History Parade. It was their 37th annual Black History Parade in Town Hall, and I represented the city for that. After that, I went with Sushi Branham, Dancing Through Prison Walls, to a date farm, and you can show it. First, I want to announce the person on the right. That is Mrs. Cobb. It is Bob Combs' farm, and she tries to stay in the background, but I got a picture of her, so that's Mrs. Cobb. He studied as, let's see if I can do this. He worked for the United States Department of Agriculture Natural Resource Conservation Service, and he is known as an AGRONOMIST. That's the spelling. He is the first black date farm grower in the United States, in all of the United States. And he is in, darn it, he's not far from here. God darn it, help me. God,
Is it Sky Valley area?
Pardon me?
Sky Valley area?
Sky Valley. He's in Sky Valley, and he does presentations. And on the left is Sushi and Mr. Cobbs, and that's where we went, and he gave us a full presentation on how to grow date palms and the different types of date palms that there are, and he would not accept me saying no, because I don't like dates, and I didn't want them. But there were 15 people with us, and everybody loved them, and he told me I could take them home. I took one home, and I haven't eaten it yet. But it was a good thing, and With us were people who are part of Dancing Through Prison Walls, and they do dancing. And if you don't know Sushi, I can connect you with her. And that's the end.
I'm going to go to Mr. Gardner first, but I wanted to say that they did a really great piece on one of the news channels. You can pull up both of their this local news and see the full story on this gentleman. And his farm is out in Sky Valley, which isn't far from here. The best way to eat a date, and I like them certain ways, and I have a little hard time with them, is in a shake. A date shake. That's the best. You would change your mind.
No, I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and yes, the only way to eat a date is in a shake, but that's just me. I wanted again to congratulate my colleague and friend Jan Pai on being recognized as one of the inspirational women of the year by our county supervisor, Mr. Perez. I can say that she certainly has been an inspiration to me and so many other people here in our city and all over the valley, and especially to me when we first served together on the DHS Planning Commission. So it's an honor to sit with her at this dais, and I can think of nobody better deserving of that honor. Not a lot of external meetings since our last council meeting to report on. I did attend the Coachella Valley Journalism Foundation Lunch and Hall of Fame induction. The foundation helps some of the positions, fund some of the positions and internships at the Desert Sun and our TV stations, and works to advance free and independent journalism throughout the valley, which is in danger. City manager, Mr. Lucchino, invited some of us up to the Pelican Club last night up in Yucca Valley. What pelicans have to do with Yucca Valley is still a mystery to me, but it is a civic organization up there that's existed for almost 75 years. And it was really nice. We got to meet a bunch of the city council members from 29 Palms, Mr. Lucchino's former employer. They didn't quite run Jan and I out of the room, but they weren't really happy that we hired him away from them, but we're certainly happy about that. The Visit Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau had an extra meeting this month for the Joint Powers Authority to approve some revisions to our JPA as Visit GPS starts to look at a more expansive role in promoting both tourism and economic development and bringing more jobs here to the desert, as well as expanding its territory to admit the city of Coachella into the JPA. And we here on the council will be taking up the amended JPA in the next couple of weeks. And that's all I've got. So in honor of Councilmember Pai, I'm just going to say I'm done.
Mr. Betts.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quickly, we get contacted by residents with different issues, and I promise that I'll bring them up when they come up. And there is a dip at Dillon and Indian, and it's when you're headed worse, when you're headed east on Dillon and you cross the road. If you're doing 35, you're okay. If you're doing 50, which I think is supposed to speed limit, it's going to launch your car. We need to get some signs there or something. So anyhow, if you're listening, I've kept my promise, I brought that up. To our new resident, great to see you. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back and watch the tape to remember your name, or you can blurt it out now.
It's okay, it's Scott Dale.
Scott, welcome to the city. It's good to have you. We do have cleanup days going. I would encourage you to contact every council member up here. You'll find them all to be very responsive. Our cards are out there. Grab one and call us anytime you see something, but welcome to the city. Nice to see what you're doing down there. I didn't make it to the event, but I saw the video, and they sure had a good time going down there at the senior center with that event, so thanks for doing that. It was really quiet, didn't have a lot of meetings. Attended Sunline, and we'll talk to them about a route down there to the health fair. We did organize a volunteer bus one year. Didn't get any takers the second year. It was quite a distance for people to go from here. So we'll have to work on that one and see what we can do. I don't imagine you're going to move the event to Desert Hot Springs since it's so well established down there. So we'll have to see what we can do on transportation. I don't know if Sunline will be the answer, but somehow that can be arranged. We can get something going. At Sunline, they've got now fully functioning. It had some service issues with hydrogen buses having troubles, but we've now taken delivery on 16 new buses. The routes are running on schedule, like clockwork. We get a performance review at every meeting in which they talk about things like how many times the bus was late. And we all know about the bus being late. You're sitting there watching it, from the bus stop, looking down the road, where is it, where is it? The other thing that we see is how many times they leave early. And that's when I get a call from somebody who says, hey, I just got up to the bus stop, I'm here on time, and I'm watching the bus drive away without me. And so we watch that very closely. The point of bringing that up is that on the on-time performances, we are now at the standard. So there was some service issues, but they've been resolved. And we got the equipment in place, the operators in place, and everything's going good. We're on a steady 30-minute schedule. And what's been good is we added a route for, was line 15, now I guess it's line 3. That goes out to Sky Valley. And so now it's running 2 times instead of 1. So that helps all those people get here into town, which is good. And Desert Hot Springs actually has the most routes. We got line 3. We got line 2, which is the main one down to the valley. But there's also the express route, line 5, which will take you to UCR and COD. So we've gotten our share of routes. I don't dare ask for another one down there because other ones started asking, why do we have so many routes? But we need them. And the next focus is on bus stops. So if anybody sees somewhere where they think a bus stop is needed, I don't ride the bus every day. I don't ride it only once a month just to check things out. But if you see there's a place where you need a bus stop, let me know. We're making a big push towards getting those filled out. It's not so bad now, but in the blazing hot sun, we want something different. Let's see, looking on my list here quick. We had a nice grand opening, ribbon cutting at XM Custom Prints. I think we had a good turnout from the council. We usually have very good participation at those. And it was nice to see a new business here in town. If you need anything printed, please see them. And the last thing, I think, you still have time to vote if you haven't. So get out to the polls. It is election day. It's they said it's a sleeper. But I went down there. It was busy. They were doing a good job down there. So get down there and vote. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. My report's not long either, so we'll get to business really quickly. But first of all, I'd just like to announce that I went to Riverside County Transportation Budget and Implementation Committee, which I'm appointed to. They do it hybrid now, so if you're in the Coachella Valley, it is warm in here. So I see someone waving over here. I'm warm up here too. Usually when Doria's in the room, it's about sub-zero. I'm surprised it's so warm. Actually bring my heavy jacket when I come to the office, and I know Doria's in the building. The Budget Implementation Committee has a hybrid meeting now where you can actually attend in the Coachella Valley via virtual, and so I went down to Palm Desert and attended. Nothing pertaining directly to the city of Desert Hot Springs, so I'm not going to bore you with those details. The Coachella Valley Association of Governments, most of you know that I'm the chair this year for the executive committee, and nothing pertained directly to the city of Desert Hot Springs and affecting it with funding or anything, but there was a discussion on homeless and unhoused population. There was a bigger event down Valley that was put on by the county, and I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because we got a lot of praise for Doria and Noe. Am I missing someone else that went with you? And Jan and Frank came as support, but as Doria and Noe spoke on the city's behalf at the event, you guys were both praised by multiple people in our room for how you spoke about Desert Hot Springs and praised for what our city council has done with helping the unhoused. So I know there was a gentleman up here today that was asking about that, and our staff can fill you in on that and what we are doing and how we're moving forward. Our model is different than most models in the Coachella Valley, and we're trying to do our part. So. Moving forward, I just wanted to give you guys kudos. A lot of people said great things about you. I was able to meet with the new Sunline director. They invited Mr. Betts, who's our appointee to Sunline, and our city manager, and the new director was able to come in and introduce herself to us and talk about what their future plans are and where they're going. So it's kind of exciting things that'll be happening at Sunline going forward in their direction. So. It was nice to meet her. She's not exactly new. She's been around for 6 months now, but you know, you have to get your feet wet and understand the issues and moving forward. I mean, our city manager knows this, and then got to get out and meet all the appointees and members of the community. So As mentioned by the last speaker, Mr. Betts, the grant, but I think you had a meeting yesterday, unfortunately, but the council was well represented with city staff at another grand opening in our downtown. And why that's so exciting is I wanted to thank XM Custom Prints. They were existing business when they were in town in a very small location, and they moved to a bigger location on Pearson Boulevard. And that block from west to Cactus is what we're really trying to focus on. And moving forward, we're going to give more policy direction on where we're going to go. But this is a really great opportunity for small businesses, and hopefully in the future, maybe a small walkable and a district, and maybe even some nightlife in the future. Lots of emails and concerns, but we're not going to sit up here and bore you with all those. They are important, so please continue to bring them forth, and I'll answer them the best I can or get you to someone who can. And lastly, as stated, please vote. That's your right as a member of our nation here in the United States, is to be able to vote. It might not seem like it always makes a difference, especially if your candidate doesn't get voted in, but it is our right. I voted today. I know the polls are still open till 8 o'clock, and I believe if you drop it in the mail, you have up to 5 days if postmarked today to be counted. So we were fortunate enough to visit with Ms. Pye, or be invited to go down and sit with Ms. Pye during her presentation. But before that, we had to listen to some angry people about voting systems. So we're very fortunate here to be able to vote. And I know people a lot of times don't like how the system works, but for the most part, we're very fortunate in this country for how we were able to elect our officials. All right, that's all I got. We're going to move to our first item, which is our public hearing, item number 2. It's an ordinance amending chapter of Title 17, zoning ordinance, chapter 17.04, general provisions. And our community development director, Travis Clark.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This chapter is titled General Provisions. It contains 2 major components. One is the definitions that are used throughout Title 17, and then towards the end establishes the land use districts, zoning land use districts. So these have not been updated to reflect the current general plan and zoning ordinance since before 2020, so we made that update finally. We added to the definition list to include the following: affordable housing. This was a request from the Planning Commission. Camping, glamping was not in there before. General definition for cosmetology services. Emergency shelter, low barrier navigation center, and that's as the state defines it. Same with employee housing as the state defines it. Also included a definition for event facility, and then food truck park and ancillary food truck park, which our ordinance currently permits. Believe it or not, we did not have a definition for front yard, so we included that. Lot coverage, recreational vehicles, and indoor retail concessions malls. Some of the definitions that were modified include manufactured and mobile homes, now to include prefabricated homes. We're seeing a huge spike in interest in prefabricated or modular homes that are different than traditional mobile homes, and so we wanted to include that definition. Also, professional services under the general category was revised so it includes some of the uses that were previously restricted, such as fortune telling, tattoo, and body piercings. So those have been moved to the general category. Also, redefined daycare and family daycare facility to align with the state definitions. So that's it. There were no substantive changes from the Planning Commission, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. We'll entertain questions before we open the public hearing. Does anybody have any specific questions of staff?
I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
I know I didn't see community kitchens under this policy. I want to see what you would consider putting in community kitchens and what topic and what definition.
Probably the way I'd define it would be a facility with a kitchen where small groups of people can cook meals together, such as at a senior center or a community center.
Okay, very well. Can we, okay to add that to that once?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Betts?
Wow, how'd you know?
I got the queue working.
Oh, okay, good. I read it over, looks fine. I just, one question in your comments, you mentioned recreational vehicles. What's the context of the recreational vehicles? You talk about parking spaces or?
We're getting interest from folks who would like to establish an RV park, in the city, and so we wanted to have a definition for that.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
No further questions. We'll open up the public hearing at this point, and we'll take testimony in favor, opposed, or neutral position. Would anybody like to speak on this item?
I would.
Tom, please come forward and state your position in favor, opposed, or neutral, and please make your comments.
Tom Moen, 45-year Desert Hot Springs citizen. Mine is neutral, but I think it's a point worth taking, and you'll probably understand why I took such an interest, because for 25 years I was the manager, senior funeral director at Rose Mortuary. And you have an article in here mentioning funeral parlors. And there's a word that I believe is wrong. Someone wrote internment, and that means like we did to the Japanese folks in World War II, and we put them in an internment camp at Manzanar at Lone Pine, California. But if you're meaning burying someone, that's interment. That's not interment, and that's a very different term. And so I would like to recommend that the staff change the word there from internment to interment. And since I have a little bit of time left, I would like to mention, since they're mentioned in here, and it is on the agenda, the trucks, the vending trucks. And I think that we should have a closer look at them, because your established restaurants in Desert Hot Springs, they have infrastructure. They build a kitchen, they build a restaurant, a physical restaurant, and they have employees that are working there. The vending trucks, yes, they have employees, but what city do they work at? How are they competing with our established restaurants? For me, it's like some places are permanent, some places are not. Hotels, restaurants in town, that money goes 4, 5, 6, up to 7 times around the city before it leaves. But the vending trucks, most of them are owned from out of town, and so the money leaves the day they pull out. And if we're going to have more jobs in town, we need the money to circulate here. And so I would like to have a more careful examination of the vending business in Desert Hot Springs. Friday night's a whole nother thing, because that's an event that's designed for that on Pearson Boulevard. But the other 6 days, what's the plan? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to speak in public comments? Yes, sir, you may come forth. Please state your position in favor, opposed, or neutral, and begin your comments.
Let me think about this for a moment. Hi, Scott Dale, one more time. There's so much information. Like this gentleman just mentioned, and thank you for speaking up. Yeah, immediate concerns, obviously with that. And I know, Travis, you mentioned something very significant I wasn't writing down because I'm just trying to take it all in.
Sir, you're going to make all your comments to the city council.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
My,
No
my,
worries.
my apologies.
No worries.
First time caller, long time listener. Wow. Let's see. Getting back to the homeless, yes, talking to people, understanding. Moving here 10 days ago, and I understand the city is getting an influx of people moving back in, kind of rebuilding itself after COVID. I still can't get my gas turned on in my unit until Friday. I called Southern California Gas. They said it would take 14 days to have my gas turned on. So here I am living in a place, first time in 4 years. So excited, and I can't take a shower. I can't do
Dale, I'm
laundry.
going to have to focus you. So this is a public
Yeah.
hearing on this item,
My-
so you got to really focus it on the item itself.
And I'm just saying, because as a person moving here, not getting the gas turned on, I realize, because Southern California Gas said it was a problem, scheduling it sooner. And that's pretty much my, at this moment. Just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else like to speak in public comments on this item here? All right, we're going to move from there. We're going to close public comments at this time, and we're going to go to city council discussion and questions to staff. If there's no further discussions, I don't see anybody in the queue, I'll accept the motion, but if, okay, go ahead.
So I understand from discussion that we've had, council and the city manager, is food trucks is something that's coming to us for further discussion.
Staff is looking at policy to, clarify some things that are undefined at this point.
Okay, so I look forward to seeing some type of reexamination. We gave that some consideration, some policy, but I would like to see that looked at. And obviously not in the context of this, we're fine for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just one quick comment, Travis. The definition or the term that was used that Mr. Mullen brought up, do you see where it's at? And do you
Yes.
agree with needing to change that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So if we do make a motion going forward, would you want to incorporate that, or does that matter?
It can be incorporated in your motion along with Commissioner Nunez's comment about community kitchen, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion to approve and adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 17, zoning ordinance, Chapter 17.04, the general provisions.
Including your,
Including my added addition to the definition and also the word correctness from Mr. Moulton.
perfect. Is there a second? Second. All right, we'll get you up on the screen. If you want to push move and you want to push second, is there any further discussion? I see none, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, amending the following chapter of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code, which is Chapter 17.04, General Provisions. The ordinance as amended during its first reading will return at the next meeting for second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Gerald. We're going to move to the administrative calendar. Item number 3 is an ordinance for cannabis regulatory permit renewals. This is going to be our compliance director, Ms. Newsom.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So the ordinance brought before you tonight would establish cannabis cultivators, manufacturers, and distributors to renew their regulatory permits on an annual basis. And this renewal would ensure that cannabis facilities remain compliant throughout the life of their operation. And further, it'll ensure that cannabis facilities provide current documentation to staff on an annual basis. Additionally, if a facility fails to renew a permit, we would have the authority to terminate the regulatory permit and require that the facility cease operations. And lastly, cannabis retail facilities are exempt from this one-year regulatory permit term and the annual permit requirements. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we take questions, we'll take public comments on this item here. Would anybody like to speak on this item? All right, nobody coming forth. We'll close public comments, and I'll move to council member comments. I don't have anybody in the queue. Go ahead, Mr. Betts.
On the, we've had a situation where people had gotten licenses for the dispensaries. They might be renewing their permit, but they're not operational. Do we have anything in here? Can we do anything in here where somebody is holding up a permit but not operating that facility? Can we take that up in this, or do we have to go through other extraordinary measures to?
So I'm not sure what you mean by holding up a permit.
Okay, so somebody got a license to operate a dispensary, and they opened it for a week, and then closed it, and never opened it again, never opened their doors again, but every year they come in and renew their permit, and since we have a limit on how many we can have, they're basically holding up the availability of a permit for somebody who wants to actually come in here and operate. And this
Understood.
was obviously a much bigger issue before.
Understood.
But I think it's still relevant.
So because this ordinance excludes those types of facilities specifically, this would not address that.
Okay, so this is dealing with cultivation only,
Cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, everything excluding retail facilities.
and we have no limit on the number of cultivators.
Correct.
Okay, so good, that answers my question. Great job, thanks.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you. Ms. Newsom, we're adopting this in theory, looking like we will. Does that put everybody on the same cycle, or are they on a renewal cycle based on their existing permits?
So the existing permit obviously has no expiration date. It's what we're establishing
Yeah.
tonight potentially. And then under the the regulatory permit term that we are setting, we prescribe that there's two things that would happen. If you have essentially obtained your permit within the last 6 months, we would give you a full year to come into compliance. Anything outside of that term, older than 6 months, you would have to renew within 6 months. So there's a leeway period essentially for them to come into compliance. That also will help staff to kind of stagger permits as they roll in.
And what I was seeing is all of a sudden you're going to get a stack of papers this high on your
It's
desk.
exactly why we did that.
And so
Yes.
you're confident that this is going to get you through that so that
Yes.
we're on a continuous, it's sort of the same issue we ran into with the short-term vacation rentals. And you are providing them lots of notice. I mean, if you've invested that much in a cannabis facility and you forget to renew your permit, I don't have a lot of sympathy, but particularly if you're sending them out a lot of notices.
Yeah, so if this is passed tonight, we'll send out a blast email notification to all of our operators. Additionally, we'll put it on the website, and then as our cannabis inspectors go out on their quarterlies, we'll also remind everybody in person.
And then you can set up their timing so that you're
Yes.
not buried under Mount Everest of paper.
Hopefully.
All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the recommendation for the ordinance for cannabis regulatory permit renewals.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Mr. Betts has stepped off the dais for a moment, but we will continue. Actually, he's back. All right, just waiting for the second to come up. There.
I think we froze.
There it goes. Please vote.
Been doing this a while. I got my timing down.
I'm trying. I'm voting yes.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council, City of Desert Hot Springs, adding to Reserve Section 5.50.180 and amending Section 5.50.190, and adding Section 5.50.195 to Chapter 5.50, Cannabis Businesses of Title V, Businesses, Licenses, and Regulations of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code in order to update cannabis regulatory permit regulations. The ordinance will return at the next meeting for second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Joe. On item number 4 is the mid-year budget adjustments for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. This will be given by our Administrative Services Director, Mr. Buckheim.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before Mr. Buckheim gives the presentation, just wanted to have some opening comments. I wanted to say that staff has reacted to the mid-year and the adjustments based on the foresight and the direction of the council to mitigate the loss of revenue, mainly due to cannabis. In summary, the revenues are up, so there is a lot of positive things that are out there, with obviously the exception, as mentioned, of cannabis. So we're reacting. We are reacting to that lower revenue source, just as any individual or business would react to their budgets. So with that, Mr. Buckheim with the details.
All right, thank you very much. So these are our fiscal year 23-24 mid-year budget adjustments. The budget adjustments with the cumulative impact of takeaways by the state, the local decline in cannabis revenue funds, and the increased costs to maintain basic services require these budget adjustments. Staff is recommending a one-time use of reserve funding to address this need and ensure proper maintenance of essential core city services like emergency response, roads, police, and addressing homelessness, as well as clean, safe, well-lit city streets and parks. Reserves cannot be utilized long-term, and additional local funding or service reductions will be necessary to maintain the current level of service long-term. Our budget adjustments are to help continue the day-to-day operations of the cities, adjustments in revenues and expenses throughout the year that are based on actual information. It also includes changes in service delivery costs and local revenue, general and emergency repairs, maintenance, and capital improvements to various city properties. It accounts for changes in the capital improvement programs and will account for unanticipated events that occur during the year. For the consolidated general fund revenue adjustments, so we are proposing a reduction of $188,272 in the revenues. The largest decrease is for the cultivation cannabis tax. Fortunately, it has been offset by some increases in the transient occupancy tax and the utility users tax. So we have, extra visitors coming to the city was providing a larger TOT, and then the more development we've had in the city has provided more buildings using utilities, getting a larger tax base for the city. Our expenditure adjustments for the Consolidated General Fund, it's a combination of things. We are reducing $66,000 in salary and benefits, which is the elimination of 12 positions, and an increase in the workers' comp costs and the POA MOU. It also includes it's either the operations for the hub, the animal hospital, and the sanctuary, the storm cleanup. One thing about the storm cleanup is that those costs are reimbursable from FEMA. However, it will probably take more than a year to receive those. These expenditure adjustments also include the purchase of the old library from the county and some changes in the other operating expenses and transfers out. Overall, for the Consolidated General Fund, our 23-24 adopted budget, we had proposed about $35,000 addition to the fund balance, with our revenue increases of $188,000 and expenditure increases of $1.3 million. We are proposing an amended use of fund balance of $1.5 million. Of that, $352,000 is approved use of reserves for the property acquisition. For our restricted funds, we have a number of restricted funds for their budget adjustments. These are for various reasons. Fire facilities is for the purchase of the previously approved purchase of the medic unit. A lot of the development impact fee funds, the capital improvement funds are mostly rollovers for projects from the previous fiscal year. It also includes the community center facilities development impact fee. That includes the improvements to the hub. The SB1 road maintenance, it includes the repairs for the Pearson Bridge after the storm, which is also a reimbursable cost to the city. Again, probably be over a year until we can receive that. Other funds include the increases for ARPA funds. These are to help pay for the repairs and cleanup from the storm, which are reimbursable. We also are including the RCTC loan for the repairs of the streets, which will also be reimbursed, and then some other items for various city funds. I am available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Before we do any questions, I'm going to have public comments. Would anybody like to make any public comments on this item? Nobody coming forth? We'll close public comments. Can you go back a few slides to the, keep going, right there. I just wanted to make a couple comments. I wanted to bring awareness to the fact that in this economy, people are still visiting. And you can see an uptick in our transit occupancy tax. And I want to thank our hoteliers for all the marketing they're doing and everything they're doing out there. So this is really helping the city in a situation where our cannabis is obviously going in the wrong direction a little bit, but we're stabilizing that with some new policies, and we're really thrilled about that. I also saw that $799,000, just under $800,000 in grants is a huge opportunity for us here in Desert Hot Springs to receive those and help offset some of the spending. Just want to thank staff. I know it's not easy to do what you've done over the last 6 months, but the City Council gave you policy direction to make the proper cuts, and I think one of the first things we ever said to Frank when he was sitting in that audience from the day he was, that month he was going to be hired, was you're going to have to take a hard look at this and let us know where we're going to be at. We have been very fortunate in the City of Desert Hot Springs to always be conservative on our planning and our projecting and to always come up and above, but this is going to be one of those years where the City Council set some policies, and we wanted to go out and be aggressive and buying some facilities and doing some good quality of life projects for the City of Hot Springs. But that doesn't come without a price sometimes, and we're balancing that now. But we're doing well in advance of the end of this fiscal year, and I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work. I'm going to move to Mr. Gardner. Go ahead.
Yeah, for some reason our queue
thing
doesn't seem to want to work. But at any rate, I'll concur real quick with the mayor about the great work staff has done. I know it's not easy, and you guys have done a great job. One comment I had, and sort of a question, and I don't know whether it would go to Mr. Buckheim or Ms. Newsom, but the transient occupancy tax increase is fantastic. We're seeing so much more traffic at our hotels. They're packed. They're bringing in visitors. We're getting a lot more TOT revenue, and that's critical for the city as we move forward. Though, speaking with the city manager, there are 3 or so hotels that are not paying any TOT right now. I'm just wondering, because what I saw on the spreadsheet was close to $200,000, and if we have a total negative revenue adjustment of 188, if we got the collection from those 2 or 3 hotels, we wouldn't be making that negative adjustment. So do we have anything in place for collecting from those hotels that have already billed their customers, they've already paid, but they just haven't paid us?
So we do have provisions that require them to pay TOT, and we commence enforcement action against any hotel that we can find evidence is carrying on business and not remitting TOT. So, for the better part of a few years, we have all these new hosting platforms that also provides us with information related to bookings and costs of bookings. And so we use that information directly as evidence to commence enforcement action. And we do have several cases against hotels with business right now.
Do you think you have the tools to be able to go to collect those now, or is there something the council can do in adopting an ordinance or a policy for late payments of TOT or for collection of TOT?
I believe there are penalties that are required now in the code. I'll defer to Mr. Buckheim on that.
We do have late penalties that we assess to anybody paying the TOT late.
What I'm thinking of is maybe some time limits, and if they don't, then we pull their CUP or something to that effect.
So yes, that's obviously escalated enforcement action, and if that's the council's choice and decision, then we can obviously move forward with that. But that is sort of a tool in the toolbox. We always start with obviously voluntary compliance, and we try to go that route, and then we move on to more severe enforcement actions such as those that we're in now.
Okay. But you're confident we can, do you have any assessment if we can get what's owed on those? Or are we going to be in a situation like we were with several of the cannabis operators where we end up writing it off?
Historically, once you open that case, it's not very long before they make those payments.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gardner, I would be safe to say, it's like, I know this is not considered a late, it's just negligence. So I don't know, we can create a negligence tax to kind of push them and encourage them to follow through.
I know the queue's not working. Mr. Betts?
Thank you. So reading this, the bottom line here is we have a $1.5 million deficit this year. That's offset by the fact, so don't panic yet. We have $8.4 million in reserves. And what I'm hearing from the city manager in my discussions is we have a plan coming forward to make sure that we aren't digging into reserves again. So it's okay, by my mind, to use reserves when you have extraordinary situations as we have. Council's been very aggressive in taking care of some issues around town that were, terrible eyesores and other issues. So I'm comfortable with those decisions. I just want to make sure that we have the plan coming forward, and I'm confident that we do. I'm looking on this here, and just for the public that may be looking at this, consolidated general fund revenue adjustments means if there's a minus, we're getting less money than we anticipated. And so for the $500,000 for transient occupancy taxes, $500,000 more than we anticipated we're getting in when we put the plan together.
Yes.
And I would prefer to see what the total number is so I can have some perspective on that. I don't need it now, but maybe in future presentations, if we could have.
Well, so the total transient occupancy tax budget now, or what we've been?
Well, I like to see, here's what we budgeted.
We
here's what we
budgeted,
got, and I just see
okay.
just see the in the future reference, if we could have 3 columns here, standard 3, that'd be great. It'd be, I think it'd make it easier. I don't know what 500,000 means. What was the total transient occupancy tax?
So we budgeted 3.9 million. We're increasing it by 500,000, so it'll now be 4.4 million.
Great.
Last fiscal year, we received 4.2 million in transient occupancy tax. At this point, we are at a higher level of collection of transient occupancy tax than we received last year at this time.
Great. So, and just so that the perspective I'm talking about is there was a time back here when 2 million was a milestone for transient occupancy tax. And so I'd just like to be able to have that total there up on the future slides if I could. Grants are one-time money. So this is just a snapshot now, correct? And has that grant been received or is it anticipated?
Some have been received, and then there are some that are anticipated.
Okay, so the 799,467, some is money we got, others is money we haven't.
Some of it that we have a contract to receive, so at least I think it includes like the 417,000 for the hub, which we are due to receive that. It also includes the remaining 107,000 from the remaining trail conservation grant that we received for the rest of the work we received this fiscal year. So that's ones that we've already received, and it's also includes some law enforcement grants that we've already received for the work that we've already done.
Okay, so and this is a snapshot now, so it's okay to use it, but we can't rely on grants for operational budgets, going forward. On the subject of TOT, the vacation rentals, when the council passed whatever it was, the rules that we had, we put in place, if we caught anybody who was operating a vacation rental for a year or 2 or 3, we had the ability to go back on them and charge them the TOT that they would have otherwise paid. Have we implemented that?
Yes, so initially what we did is we ran sort of a report that allowed us to see those who are operating unlawfully. And then from there, we opened cases, and as a requirement of the corrective actions, they were required to pay retroactive TOT in order to obtain their permits.
Okay, and we had a company here before us that had some fancy program that would go back and check that. I don't know what became of that.
Correct.
But either way, you can go back and check their bookings. And we're telling them, hi, fine, we're going to get you this permit, but you got all this time that you weren't operating, you owe us this TOT, and so we collect that, right?
So, yeah, the first round of amendments that we did to the ordinance, we captured all of that we could. And then moving into this round of amended regulations, that's really not an issue anymore because we simply do what's called delisting. So in those new regulations, we required the hosting platforms to immediately pull down their ability to rent through those hosting platforms, so.
Okay, and I guess we know all the platforms for listing, right? Okay, and then, we're not at budget time, but I do want to go through this. I got a couple things I want to go through here just to get questions, and part of my problem was I got this on Thursday night, actually Friday morning when I opened up my email, and I hadn't had a lot of time to digest it. The first chance I had to go over this with the city manager was today at, we start at noon, 12:30, something like that, and so I really would like to get more time on future budgets, and I've said this so many times, but this is dropping a lot on us, and not just me, but the public. There's some questions here I asked, how many questions did I ask you? I had 8 questions for the city manager, and I thank you for the replies, but it's not enough time to get back. So I'm gonna go through some of those and see if I can get some clarification here, and see where we go from there. Okay, so there's $324,175 for the purchase of a medical squad unit. That's not something that we get the county, we can get from the county somehow, that we get a grant or, go with some type of zero emission vehicle and get it donated.
No, unfortunately, it's, ramping up for the new operation, and so that is what it is. There is the Carl Moyer grant. that will be taking out an existing vehicle, so we can look at that in future years as far as zero emissions.
Okay, great. And then on the parks diff fee, I'm seeing an increase in expenditure budget appropriations in the amount of $146,131 due to increased cost of the Tedesco Park restroom replacement project. So we pulled $146,131 out of the parks diff.
Yeah, that's not in any addition to. Our fiscal year ends June 30th, and the appropriations were all made in the prior fiscal year. However, the actual completion and spending of it carried over into the next fiscal year, the year that we're in today.
Okay.
So that's why.
So $146,000 of the cost of that restroom came from the parks diff fund.
That is correct.
That's what this is telling me. Okay, thank you. And this is a sticky one. I got community facilities diff fund, increase expenditure budget appropriations in the amount of $629,230 for improvements made at the hub. And I remembered we purchased that for, that was it, $550,000 was the number?
575.
575, thank you. You always got, very good. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe they've spent some money down there to bring it up to 629, but I'm finding out we bought it for 575 and then spent another 629,000. And I don't remember that coming to this council. I remember reporting out a closed session that we were buying the building, but I don't remember 12,000 for camera system, 24,000 for new climate control system, 35,000 for landscaping, 165,000 for exterior walls and block. I know these are abbreviated definitions. 167,000 for interior repairs, restrooms and shower remodel. 167,500 for a kitchen remodel. I don't remember any of that coming to us, and it's supposed to.
Yeah, so the direction, was given during that closed session to purchase and to rehabilitate that to get it into operation.
Okay, so my point is, always, the public has a chance to weigh in on this stuff, and we can't decide these things in closed session. They must come out into open session specifically for these. And if it was a surprise to me, because I don't remember that, I remember buying the building. I don't remember all agreeing to all this, because I'm sure would have voted probably no, because it wasn't my idea for what we were going to do with this building. I might have been convinced that some of this was needed, and I'm also always reminded that things cost more than, we think they would at home. So anyhow, I'm just going to leave it at that, but I really hope that we will be a little more diligent in that concern, and you guys can all disagree with me if you want, but direct your comments that way, not to me. I don't want to put up a piece of plexiglass here just because I'm asking questions.
No one said anything, Mr. Betts. You don't need to point your finger or make any allegations to
pointing
anyone in
any
the council. No, you're making allegations to the council that we're disagreeing with you. No one stopped you. Please make your comments and ask your questions.
I see
Thank
Jan
you.
over there smiling at me. So
Okay,
it's
that has nothing to
All
do
right.
with your comment.
Reflection Park rehab and the Courtyard Park, and I didn't see what the difference was. We haven't spent any money on Reflection Park yet, or have we? And are we really calling it Reflection Park?
Yeah, it's in design currently. It's CDBG funded project, and it's in design. Mr. Porter, are there timing of that project?
Yeah, so the funding has been spent on design, and the rest is earmarked for construction, and we are finalizing the plan, so we should be in the next month or so, and I'm seeing if around next month or so, the RFP would be sent to the county for approval and then begin construction.
Okay, when's Corporate Yard Park, do you think, going to start construction?
That one's going to go to the state in April for allocation of funds, and we expect to get approval from the state in June, and we'll start construction this summer.
Okay, we always have a bad habit up here. You guys tell us about something, and then we go announce it, and then we keep remembering that the process takes longer than that, so, okay. And then the Reflection Park, where are we at on that one? And this is an expenditure that we've already incurred, right?
Yeah, that's the same one. So Reflection Park, we already incurred the design cost, now the construction cost will follow.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go through these quickly as I can. And then we had a community development block grant, increase in revenues of $181,000, increase expenditure budget appropriation, for Tedesco Park restroom project, and I got your explanation, but I'm not going to read it, but I couldn't follow that. Can you take a second stab and tell me what is that item about? What's it telling me in this summary? We got all these
So
from
that-
staff, and I appreciate the summary list. You did a great job. Some of it I didn't grasp.
So that is, like, the park diffie, that is just a carryover of the project budget. So the project was approved in February 2023, and then that's when the budget was appropriated. The project was not finished by the end of the fiscal year, so this 181,000 is what was remaining of the budget for that project for it to be finished.
Okay, so these are just accounting entries then?
Right, it's basically a county entry, it's what was left over the budget that we still needed, so it's just carried over from the previous fiscal year. It's not an increase in the cost. I know for the park diff, it said increase in cost, but that was actually an error. It should not have, it said it should have been more of a carryover cost.
Okay, good, and I appreciate that, and, there's people listening and watching, as we know, and so they'll pick that up, and we want a big hubbub on the social media. Last couple of questions. All right. The only question I got left is, you made some comment here about the Government Finance Office Association recommends that the appropriate level for unrestricted balance, that we should have 5.6 million in reserves, and that we estimate a 1.6 million in unrestricted fund balance. But as I'm looking at this, do we have the natural and fiscal emergency reserve? That's restricted? We can't just grab that?
It's not restricted, it's designated.
Okay.
It's not restricted, it's designated. So we have 8.4 million of unrestricted reserves, and a portion of that, I think it's 5.6, is designated.
Yes, we have a portion of that is designated, or what we would say committed based on council actions.
Okay,
So
for the cannabis emergency reserve that we put in way back when, it was basically just to stash some money away.
Yeah.
And we
Yes.
probably set some parameter when it could be released, but we could change that anytime if we ran into an emergency.
That is correct, and I think that's an important point, and then we were talking about that in staff. I think that will be brought forth because I think there needs to be some more definitions of when you can use it, and like this year, by way of example, and we talked about this in the staff side of it, water districts, by way of example, have what's called as a rate stabilization, and I think cannabis falls in that, since it's in its infancy, really, as an industry, that rate stabilization is important, because we're not really sure how cannabis is going to move, and I think from the manager's perspective, and we'll bring it to council for consideration, that those numbers should be used, those reserves should be used for rate stabilization. By way of example, if things drop, we could use that reserve to kind of balance as one time. But again, that'll become forth in a council, future council.
And so my final comment is, basically, this is a reflection of what has taken place. The council needs to ratify it, correct?
Correct.
And that's the action we're taking here now.
That's correct.
And I want to thank the staff for doing a really good, clear job presenting it. Sometimes, when you get these accounting numbers, it can be like, what did I just read? So thank you very much, very clear. There is one item that I disagree with on here, so just by way of explanation, I'll be voting no, surprise, surprise. But I don't agree with the way the funding was handled on that one particular item I mentioned, being the hub and the expenditures there. So that's the only reason I'll be voting no. Otherwise, I don't want the staff to think that I don't appreciate the job you did. Thank you. This is an excellent report. Thank you.
I have nobody else in the queue. Anybody else want to make any comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the mid-year budget corrections as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. As they come up on the screen, please vote.
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Betts opposed.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 5, federal appropriations request. Our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is regarding the congressional direct spending. I'll try to kind of explain it. Through an annual government funding process, members of Congress can request that spending be directed to specific projects within their districts. that is called Congressional Direct Spending, CDS. It's also known as Community Project Funding, and it's also known as earmarks. It's all the same. Who can apply? It'll be nonprofits, local cities, states, or tribal governments. Typically, projects are between 1, 2 million. Some of them a little more, some of them a little bit less. It does have a project location, project description, and so forth. That time when that appropriation is now. Currently, Senator LaFonza Butler has released her fiscal year 2025 appropriation request for funding through the congressional district spending. In order to be eligible to receive any funding, local agencies and nonprofit organizations must submit appropriation requests to the Center for consideration by Tuesday, March 12, 2024, which is approaching really quick. Additionally, Senator Padilla's fiscal year 2025 appropriation request for funding is expected to be released in the next few weeks, which also local agencies will be required to submit their appropriation requests for consideration. And then finally, we are expecting Congressman Dr. Rowery's fiscal year's 2025 appropriation request for funding will also be released in the next few weeks, which will also require the city to submit a funding request for that. In 2021, the city submitted and was successfully awarded $2.5 million for the construction of Indian Canyon Drive crossing for the Desert Hot Springs Bridge over Water Crossings project through the Congressman Raul Ruiz's earmark for fiscal year 2022. The city is gearing up to submit those appropriation requests, and we need some input. Some of those forms require the project description, the project location, the project benefits to the community, and the cost. This year, staff has proposed 2 projects. In order for the city to submit, the city may submit multiple appropriation requests, but they must submit their priorities. The first project that the staff is recommending or proposing to submit and considered by City Council is funding in the amount of $2.5 million for the ongoing daily operations and/or specific aspects of the operation of the hub, the city's homeless access center. And the second one is the funding in the amount of $2.5 million for the design and construction of the Indian Canyon Drive crossing improvements for the DHS Bridges Over Water Crossing project. The $2.5 million that the city received in 2022 have not been used. We were designing, we were clearing all the NEPA documents, and then we had Tropical Storm Hillary completely damage and destroy and change the topography of that crossing. We currently are now changing from 3 18-inch diameter pipes to 3 7 by 3 box culverts, which will actually improve the flow and actually be functional. What this project would be doing would be improving that same crossing and also 2 crossings north of it. And I have a couple of exhibits to kind of show exactly what I'm talking about. So these are the Indian Canyon and Mission Lake crossings that we currently have. We have 2 big creeks. The Mission Creek is on the lower side and Morongo Wash on the northern side. Currently, the crossing, you'll see it there in orange, and then the rest is under construction. That entire segment was completely damaged with Hurricane Hillary. And then after the fact, we've had a lot of different effects with the actual storm. So if you see the next slide, on the left was the way it was before. Mission Creek was very, very well defined. All the water flowed and stayed within Mission Creek. Right after Tropical Storm Hillary, this is a January aerial, Mission Creek now had breakouts where now it's completely wide, and now it's not just crossing at one point, but it's crossing at multiple points and completely flooding Indian Canyon. If you go to the next slide, this is the original Morongo Wash is on the left, and also had very, very low or small water crossings on the actual Indian Canyon that were very easily attained. On the right, you'll see the way Morongo Wash is now behaving, where you have water completely inundating Indian Canyon, north of Mission Lakes, and crossing Mission Lakes as well. What this project would do is, shown on the next slide, was evaluate this entire intersection, the Mission Creek crossing and the Morongo Wash crossing. We're right now, based on topography and some hydrology calculations, it'll require 2 crossings, one on Indian, one on Mission Lakes, and a separate improvement along Indian Canyon that would divert the flow down into Mission Creek. Now, the entire point of the entire project would be to maintain Indian Canyon completely open during most or all weather and rain events. And this is the second project that the city is proposing to submit for funding. Again, today we're here to ask council to consider the 2 projects, is the funding of the hub and the funding of this project, and if one or the other or either or the other, and then the priority level. That concludes my staff report, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to public comments. Anyone would like to make any public comments on this item? Please come forward. See nobody coming forth, we'll close public comments, and I'll move to council member comments. I do have somebody in the queue, Ms. Pye.
I vote for option number 2, the funding in the amount of 2.5. It's because this affects more people than just the hub, and we have to think past go. And we need to get to Desert Regional quickly. And so that is, my allegiance, yes, is to the hub. But for this, it's option number 2.
Do I have any other comments on anybody else in the queue? All right, Mr. Gardner, then Mr. Betts.
Okay. I'm just curious, are you asking each of us our opinion on this? Some of us have already met with the city manager and said that, or are we voting on a specific proposal today? What's your intention on this, Mr. Mayor?
I think staff is asking us which option to take, so the two, yes.
So we would make a motion for option 1 or option 2 and vote on that? Is that
If
how
I'm wrong, please
you're
correct me.
anticipating us doing this? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, so it'll be a priority level, priority for the first project or the second project as a consensus from the city council. We have one appropriation request that's open currently. Senator Padilla's and Congressman Ruiz's office has not opened appropriations. They might have some specific requirements, but if we have a consensus, then we're able to adjust the application for each submittal.
Representative Ruiz's appropriation grant to us from a couple of years ago was for Indian Canyon at that point, and as I recall right, we were just going to do the Mission Creek piece, which now we don't need to. We haven't spent that money, and you're saying that the Morongo crossing is going to be how much?
So actually, the next slide has an estimate. So we have a breakdown estimate here. I believe it's the next slide, right? I think I'll show right now. It's $9.2 million, and it's
How much is it, did you say?
9.2 for the 2 crossings and to go south, connecting both of them. There it is, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the engineering, there's a NEPA, and there's crossings, and then there's construction engineering, estimated at 9.2 million. The main idea is the engineering design and the NEPA is really going to define the construction cost. The engineering design might not require 2 low water crossings, might require only 1, divert the flow and just go south or north. We're not at that point yet, just because everything's completely different than what we previously evaluated. But this project was shown on the original submittal with Ruiz's.
And that's where we got 2.5.
Correct.
Versus the 9.2 that you think
Correct.
that we're going to need for this. So if we have 2.5 and we take away 9, but we're going to need roughly 6.5, right, from them, which is a pretty big ask from our federal representatives.
Yeah, but we won't be asking for that entire amount. I think they put a cap on it right at, 2.5 million is kind of the sweet spot, so.
So we would get 2.5 million, so we're at 5, and we still need to come up then with 4, roughly, to complete this project. So it's not anything that's going to happen right away, correct? If we make the Indian crossing the priority ask.
Correct. We will still have to design it and do the environmental documents, which will then define exactly the scope of work for the construction, yes.
It doesn't stop the fact that CVAG's still doing their study.
Yeah.
which there
Correct.
could be funding there also, so this could all work hand in hand.
So converting, going back to the hub, though, we have funding now with the county grant and stuff to get us to when? What is it, we're looking now, like August, something to that effect?
So the county funding will get us through December 31st.
It'll get us through the end of the
Well,
year. we think.
theoretically, that's the contract, but I realistically think it's going to be the end of June.
So,
And one thing to add to that, I think I see where you're going on this. Remember, the federal government is not like us and passes
Yes.
a budget quickly. So
well,
they
no,
still
it
haven't.
was due months and months and months
So-
ago. But, so that being said, they are up against the budget wall, and so they would be working on that. So just ballparking right now, it's choosing one or the other, but given the time that it would take to do the Indian crossing versus the more immediate need that we need to keep the hub up and running, I would put the hub as the number 1 and the Indian crossing one as number 2. That's what I've got.
Mr. Betts?
And if I got this correct, the 2.5 million that we get could be used as our match for other grants, correct?
Non-federal grants.
Yes, non-federal grants, correct.
Non-federal grants.
Okay, so, and that's the way the Health and Wellness Center got going. They originally went there and got 2.5 million for that, and then some other stuff, and all of that, went into getting that project done. Those pictures are amazing, Danny, especially looking at the Mission Creek. We can put that back up. You've got that, the developer had to put in a dike system there, right? A levee system, whatever you want to call it. And I always wonder if there's a big wash coming down through there, is that going to hold up? And I know we've had times when people had to escape the water at that intersection because it was flooding through there. And I guess we get a lot of water coming down Indian that way anyhow. So this is needed, but, and this is the crux of my comments, we got some other needs in the community, and we always focused on the west side, it seems like, and we've been ignoring, for example, Mountain View. I know there's a, Mountain View is closed because the wash got washed out. And there's unlimited wants and limited resources. And I also understand we got 2 weeks. We got March 12th's got to get one's got to get done. And another one's 2 weeks later, another one's, a few weeks from now. So you're under a time frame. Do we not have any shovel-ready projects, or is this the shovel-ready project that we have?
This project, since it was already partially funded, or it was already approved, it would meet some of the criteria that was previously approved. Now, do we have a shovel-ready project? We do not.
Okay, could these grants, our parks, we're woefully inadequate in our parks. Could we include a priority that maybe we do 2.5 million in parks? And I'm looking at the Wardman Park Pool. I'd love to get done someday. I don't think the plans that we have for Wardman Park Pool need to be as elaborate as what was presented, a few years back. But that could be operating. We could have more amenities at some of our other parks. We could have new parks put in. We got parks that are waiting to go. So is one of our options to expand this list?
This again is a consensus for the council.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to find out if we told you, hi, we wanted to do something for parks, and you came up with the hub pretty quick, right? So you could probably, instead of putting it into the homeless shelter, you could put it into parks, or, get the Wardman Park Pool going, or, on Mountain View, that's a mess. It's a dangerous road. Huh?
Why are we even discussing it? It's not in the city limits.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, it's not in the city limits, so we shouldn't be discussing it. That's the reason I think we're discussing these, because they're within the city boundaries.
Okay, so we're not.
So if you want to talk about parks.
That's the same as
Varner.
Varner.
I think it's relevant if you talk about parks, but
Okay.
outside city limits isn't relevant.
There's no part of Mountain View in our city?
There's a very small section of Mountain View in our city.
All right, well, maybe we'll.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and just from the manager's perspective, since we've already, took a step, if you will, from this Indian project, and we do have that money hanging out there, that $2.5 million, it just seems, logical from a staff perspective. And again, obviously, council's direction on this, that we fulfill this, because there is that gap in funding, as mentioned earlier, that $6.5 million. So it gets us closer, then we can close out that project, complete it, deliver it, then maybe move on to, the next thing, whatever that is, from a policy direction for infrastructure.
So to wrap up my comments, I think Danny said it, their instinct is to get this taken care of. It's a need. And in line with what the city manager said, that I would agree that we go with this project, but that this not be the be-all, end-all of everything we're going to go seek to get done. So I'm not going to hang my hat on, I'd like to see other stuff done first. I'm going to go with the staff recommendation here in this meeting, an indication here that the priority is the design and construction of the road improvements. That'd be my preference.
Commissioner Nunez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I honestly really don't see the weather changing in a different direction other than what we're seeing. We're seeing these creeks and these wash getting wider. I think it's going to get worse over time. The infrastructure is badly needed, and especially in the growth of that area. So I think this is it's a no-brainer for me, that the priority would have to be number two. And then, at the end of the day, if we're blessed by the federal government with more spending, then we can look at the hub and funding the hub. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, my final comments for this, and I don't disagree with Mr. Betts on Mountain View being a key point to our access in and out of the community, because I'm about to harp on the fact that transportation is probably one of the more important things that we do need to study, and it pulls me and tugs me because quality of life in our hub is another important piece to what I feel for quality of life issues. But if you look at inside our community community is struggling right now just to get outside the city when it comes to just traveling. Our inner core of our community and our eastern of our community is being shoved out through Palm Drive, and it's every day it's just a challenge. And then you have, and I don't know, I'm just going to say it. It was a terrible move by Caltrans to close 2 on-ramps during the morning commute the other day that caused major backflow into our community. And for whoever made that decision without checking with local agencies, it was the worst. And so that leaves the western part of our community focused on Indian Canyon and these roadways that continue to be Band-Aid together, so that when a significant event happens, we just have to go back and try to find more fundings. And we have 6 months worth of closures here. I think we found some pretty good, I mean, you guys did a fantastic job in finding a better solution than ever's been found for this, and getting the federal government to appreciate putting this back to a functional state, is the key words they used. But I think we need to continue to focus on that. Congressman Ruiz has already been a champion for $2.5 million on putting funding towards this, so I think we need to continue down that path. I think that's going to be our best bet, is for him to understand it the best way. Is to continue to strengthen these roads. We have a lot of high desert individuals that come down to our community to shop and utilize our services, and to utilize those access roads when Highway 62 is closed down for accidents and other reasons. They use our community to cut through to get to the rest of the Coachella Valley. So as much as parks is really important to me, it's always been, I don't disagree with you on that on Mr. Betts at all, but we do have other funding mechanisms with Assemblyman Garcia's push for, I'm going to forget the AB, whatever, funding for parks in the future. We just got to continue to harp on that, and I'm sure we can get more funding for our parks there. So I think if you look at the different pots of money and the opportunities, option number 2 is going to be our best bet for right now to get probably the biggest support. The hub is going to we're going to have to educate the congressman on that more. And I know we'll be able to do that, but I think it's going to have to come down the line. I'm really nervous with how we're going to fund that in the future, but we'll figure it out. We always do. You guys are smart staff members. We're a good community, and we figure it out. So I would also go with option number 2. And just so the public knows, each of us the city manager's been meeting with us for multiple weeks talking about this opportunity, and what they've narrowed it down with the multiple conversations behind the scenes is this type of funding here. So this is where we're at today. If there's no other comments, we can go ahead and accept a motion on what someone would like to make.
Motion to recommend staff go with option number 2 as the priority.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion and a second. There's a comment, Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, just wanted to point out, for the sake of unanimity, whatever, to the congressman, I'm going to vote yes on this, but I share the mayor's concern about ongoing funding for the hub. And while this is this is one of those split the baby in half things, but I look at those and know that we've made a huge improvement in Mission Creek right now. I don't see it being as, once that's fixed, I think we can get by without fixing those right away. What we can't get by is if we run out of funding for the hub, then we've got to shut it down. So that just means we're going to have to work a lot harder to try to find additional funding for the hub. So I'm going to vote yes on this. It still doesn't alleviate my concerns, but I did want to put on a united front to the Congressman's office when we make that request.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may add just one thing, we're going to submit both of these, right? So I know other communities are submitting, we think we heard Cathedral City is submitting 5 projects. So we're going to submit both of these. They just wanted some priorities. And they may, given their, things that they feel is important, they might fund the second as opposed to the first. So both of them will be submitted.
Use your magic powers. Other comments, please vote.
I think we'll wait till what Measure 1 says tonight. and-
Oh, Prop 1, yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be another funding mechanism in the future.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. No other items on the administrative calendar. No items were pulled from the consent calendar. Before we adjourn, we do have public comments on anyone that did not speak during the first public comment period. Anyone that came in at the end or has been here and not spoken, public comments may do so now. See nobody coming forth. Before we adjourn, the Planning Commission will meet on March 12th here in this chambers. The Public Safety Commission will meet March 14th. And the City Council will meet again on March 19th, all at 6 p.m. here in these chambers. We are
Mr. Mayor,
adjourned.
before we adjourn,
Yes.
I just wanted to see if we can get permission to have a discussion on the street memorializations policy moving forward. I'm being more happy to sit on the committee to discuss that with staff and see how we can get something.
Yeah,
going.
Mr. Nunez and I would second that, and you
What
can
is
make the
street
two of us do that.
memorialization?
It has to do with all the memorials that you see on the side of the streets of people that passed away, family members that passed away. I see other cities have policies, so I know that the city of Desert Hot Springs does not have one, so we can look at and develop one, and hopefully that we can get.
Mr. Betts and I are working on an item with cleaning up the community in a certain way, so I'd be happy to have you two work together on that and bring it to the city manager's office.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we are adjourned.